proportion Z interval. A fun mnemonic we know to help us remember all 5 steps of the 1 proportion Z interval is don't panic, be confident. How do we know that we need to use a 1 proportion Z interval? You will use a 1 proportion Z interval when dealing with categorical data and when only 1 proportion is being estimated. If data is quantitative or you are estimating more than one mean or proportion, then you do not use the 1 proportion Z interval. The importance of the 1 proportion Z interval allows us to confidently make an estimate of the population based on the sample. Its purpose is to find the interval that best represents the true population proportion. The margin of error helps determine the upper and lower bound to find the confidence interval. Every confidence interval is the test statistic plus or minus the margin of error. Our first example is a major metropolitan newspaper selected a simple random sample of 1,600 readers from their list of 100,000 subscribers. They asked whether the paper should increase its coverage of local news. 40% of the sample wanted more local news. What is the 99% confidence interval for the proportion of readers who would like more coverage of local news? The first step in a 1 proportion Z interval is looking for P, which is the parameter, which is what you are estimating. We are estimating the true population proportion of readers who believe the coverage of local news should be increased. Next, you'll check your 4 assumptions. If the sample is random, independent, and meets requirements for the 10% in normal conditions, then your sampling distribution is approximately normal. The sample is random, the readers are independent, there are at least 16,000 subscribers, and the sampling distribution is approximately normal. Next is the letter N in panic, so you will name what interval you're using. In our case, we will say we are using a 1 proportion Z interval. I is the next letter. When using I, you're going to state the upper bound and lower bound of your 1 proportion Z interval. You'll go to your calculator and click Stat, Test, and choose the 1 proportion Z interval. You'll plug in your data to calculate your interval, which is your upper and lower bound. In our example, it's 0.37 and 0.43. The last step in panic is to write your conclusion in context. Our conclusion is we are 99% confident that the interval from 0.37 to 0.43 captures the true population proportion of readers who favor increasing local news coverage. Our second example is in a Yakovlevich Partners poll of 1,000 adults, 45% reported that they believed in faith healing. Construct a 95% confidence interval for the true proportion of adults in the U.S. that believe in faith healing. We will start with step P, the parameter of interest. For this example, we are estimating the true proportion of U.S. adults that believe in faith healing. Next, we'll check our 4 assumptions. Although it's not directly stated that we may assume the sample was taken randomly. Each adult's opinion is independent. There are at least 10,000 U.S. adults, and the sampling distribution is approximately normal. We're going back to N, and we're going to say that we were using a 1 proportion Z interval. The second to last step of a 1 proportion Z interval is stating the interval, which is solved with your calculator. Our interval is 0.42 to 0.48. And last is our conclusion. We are 95% confident that the interval from 0.42 to 0.48 captures the true proportion of U.S. adults who believe in faith healing. This is our assessment question. Which of these problems would you use a 1 proportion Z interval for? Number 1, environmentalists, government officials, and vehicle manufacturers are all interested in studying the auto exhaust emissions produced by motor vehicles. The major pollutants in auto exhaust are hydrocarbons, monoxide, and nitrogen oxides. The mean NOx level for a sample of light-duty engines of the same type is 1.56 gallons per mile, and the standard deviation is 0.05. Number 2, Harley-Davidson motorcycles make up 14% of all motorcycles registered in the U.S. In 1995, 9,224 motorcycles were reported stolen. 2,490 of these were Harleys. We can think of motorcycles stolen in 1995 as an SRS of motorcycles stolen in recent years. Number 3, a study of injuries to inline skaters used data from the National Electronic Injury Surveillance System, which collects data from a random sample of hospital emergency rooms. In the 6-month study period, 206 people came to the sample hospitals with injuries from inline skating. We can think of these people as an SRS of all people injured while skating. Researchers were able to interview 161 of these people. Wrist injuries, mostly fractures, were the most common. Second. And the answer is number 2. What can go wrong in a 1 proportion Z interval? It's very important when using a 1 proportion Z interval that you never suggest the parameter varies, claim that other samples will agree with yours, be certain about the parameter, and claim to know too much. And don't forget to take responsibility. Thank you for watching today, and we hope you learned a lot about a 1 proportion Z interval.